once I gained that accountability, it kind of like was a game changer in my personal career. The following year, then like that's when I really got traction. Bigger deals came. I bought rentals and I never thought I would own a rental property. The traction, it just came back.
What's up, guys? Today we have special guest Tereva Jacobson. She's an investor from Maui. 3 years ago, she was $150,000 in debt and paid it all off in 2 years through real estate investing. She owns rentals, she flips houses, and she owns her very own Tahitian dance school. Yes. Welcome to the show, sis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
So, I mean, just that intro, I mean, like that story of being $150,000 in debt to like where you are now, to me, that's incredible, you know, and just, it kind of just speaks to just the power of real estate and like what you can do in such a short period of time with real estate investing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So walk us through maybe like what were you doing like before real estate investing during that time, and how did you actually get into real estate investing?
So before real estate investing, typical W-2 worker, and, you know, living in Hawaii, it's very common to have a couple of jobs. So being a dancer, I would dance in the evening and kind of make quick cash there and just have a regular W-2 office job during the day. And I realized that I wasn't getting anywhere because the goal was to maximize income, to get out of debt. Yeah. And I wasn't disciplined with the income, and it wasn't really intentional wherever the money was going. Yeah. So I could earn. I know that I can earn. Yeah. I didn't know how to manage the money. Yeah. So anyway, once I discovered real estate and with all of the mindset work that we do with real estate, I was able to like shift my mindset, properly focus my time and activities.
I feel like real estate, a lot of it is mindset. Like people don't realize like it's the actual real estate itself is actually very simple. It's like the daily consistent action and keeping yourself accountable, and then being able to struggle, battle through like the challenges that are happening every day. I think that's a big part of real estate investing, right? I
always say that finding a deal, raising capital, it is very like A to Z, do this, do that, and then you do this and then you do that. But doing that every day consistently, that's where you cannot pull from anywhere, but you're, you know, within your mindset, and you have to nurture your mindset. You have to be around the people that help you continue to stay strong through the struggles, through the ups and the downs of real estate. Yes.
I mean, the thing is, like, it's like you said, it's very easy to like, the steps are very easy, and there's a consistent pattern of how you can actually achieve the goals. But the result sometimes is so far away from like the daily actions that there's like a disconnect between what you're doing daily and where the outcome is, right? So like that time frame, that time delay.
Absolutely. Yes.
So $150,000 in debt, working 2 jobs, and you feel like you weren't making any progress.
None. Yeah, unfortunately.
So how did you get introduced? Were you watching YouTube, social media? How did you find real estate investing in the first place?
Honestly, I was working with a couple of men in the industry that I was working in who own several rentals on Maui. And everyone around me would always tell me, if you want to learn how to make money, talk to these guys. And I can do math, right? And one day I just took one of them on the side, and I was like, hey, am I thinking right? Buy a place, make sure the mortgage is less than the potential rental income that you can receive. He's like, you got it. Plus, minus, you know, you make money at the end. If you're coming out with a profit monthly, boom, that's the one. I was like, okay, the math is easy. Now how to get into it? My friend, he actually recommended a mentorship. Okay. Right away. He's like, hey, these guys are coming to do like a seminar, just come or whatever, pay the $300, just do the seminar and see what you gain from it. And of course, at the seminar, you know, they they encourage you to sign up for the lifetime mentorship. And I definitely saw the value. And it was hard because, I'm like 100-something K in debt. I have to go pay someone. Like I had to get more in debt for another investment. That was insane. Yes. So
what's kind of going? I mean, like, so I feel like this is like a dilemma a lot of people face, where they're in a hole, but in order to get themselves out of the hole, they have to go deeper into this hole. It almost feels like, right? So what was your thought process during this time? Like, how did you like make that decision?
the math. Like the math was mathing. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pay this. I'm going to learn. They have it all, and it was like not done for you, but you had
all the resources and tools that you need.
Everything, documents, contacts, a huge community, and I was like, yep, I don't mind. Like, let's get into this, and I know my work ethics, and I know that I can do this. So. It was hard to, sign the dotted line, swipe the card.
Can I ask how much it was? I mean, you don't have to share if you don't want to.
I want to say it was $30,000.
Okay, that's a big chunk of change.
Yes. And I was already in debt by the time I decided to get into real estate. So it was difficult. But they have one good salespeople for that. Yeah. And two, they shared like everything. Like, you're going to have these documents, you're going to have these whatever videos and such. So it was a very, very good decision. But when I signed up, I definitely wasn't sure. I'm like, hey, you better do this. You have this price tag attached to this and you have to do it. And also it was hard to convince my husband. He was not happy about it. But it's like he wasn't happy, but he's still supportive.
That's a huge thing, I think. A lot of times where as a married couple, right, like husband and wife, like one guy wants to go, or one guy or girl wants to go in one way, the other one's like not sure, but then like they believe in their spouse. And so it's really good that your husband believed in you and kind of gave you like that, hey, like I'm not sure if I agree with like this thing, but I trust you, and like I want to like support you in this.
Absolutely. It's so important. We do know, right? Like husband and wife do these things together. Like, and I like admire it. It's like, it's amazing that you have that support directly at home. Both your hearts are in it, both your mindsets are in it. And then I do also hear a lot of people where, my spouse isn't supportive and like stresses me out. And I feel bad because we know the potential of real estate, and we also know the potential of someone, not supporting you. Yeah.
So, and the thing is, like, they're not doing it intentionally. It's like, they just like, they don't see the value in it. So like their natural like tendency is just like, they're trying to help you or help the relationship together.
Or protect you from,
but then at the same time, it's holding you back sometimes, right?
Yes. So. And they don't realize it. So, the dynamic with my husband has always been for each other. We're very supportive. Really, truly, he wants to get into something, I will absolutely support it. I've never been the type, we're not the type to hold each other back. Even if we don't fully agree. It's just, we've always been like that. That's so it's very, very good. Do I wish that he maybe did more or was more active? Sometimes yes. And sometimes I'm like, actually, this is good. Like,
have some your own space where you can like make a decision because
And the other good thing is, I can go to him when something's going on and I'm like, I need an outside perspective maybe, or I need just your kind of like a neutral point of view. Because he's not in the business, so he doesn't have like all the feelings of it.
Preconceived notions and all those things.
So he can have like an outside point of view and like, just like, okay, this is what I see and this is what I see. And I'm like, okay, I didn't even think about that. So it's kind of nice, you know, that he doesn't have, he's not like in it, like grinding like we are. So it was very hard to kind of convince him of that price tag. And, also it took a bit. So the other thing, so we're in debt, like you mentioned,
okay.
We're in debt.
You joined the mentorship, you're starting like the process,
even more in debt at that point. And then it takes months to feel anything, like to get paid. It takes months of focus, consistency, intense work, the feelings of the ups and the downs, being told no 100 times.
The beginning of real estate is so hard.
Hard.
I mean, the thing is, like, it's like most people see Instagram, like the results, like the finished product, the flip, right? But then like
before and after,
that's like a year ahead of time. You're talking to the owners, or you're trying to buy out the MLS. There's negotiation. You run into like these challenges. You're trying to raise money for your deal. Like all these like things that also comes along the way. And like when you're in it, like the success on the line seems so far away. Like the goal line seems so far down the road. And so it's hard to like stay focused and continue to do those daily actions, right? And then at the end of the year, you finish like, I made $100,000. And people are like, that was so easy. But they didn't see the learning, all the struggles up to get to that point, right? So.
And also when you're like looking for a deal, like you get close to it and it doesn't pan out, you're like, you almost I don't know, tasted that 100K. And I'm like, you're like, man, okay, this isn't the deal. Okay, back to, square one. Let's go. Like, let's find that next one.
So I think this happens to like a lot of newer investors when you're just starting out, because you come so close to deals in the very beginning, and then like you're like, oh, I'm just about to get my first deal, and then like you get crushed, and then like this actually happened to me like a couple times when I first started out in Hawaii, where like I was like, hey, we're gonna sign a contract. And then like ghosted or whatever the reason. So like for whatever various reasons, but I think it's heartbreaking when you feel like you're working so hard and there's no results. Like, but when you're especially when you're first starting.
Yeah, because we're humans, we have feelings, and so it the first several months, I luckily, because there was a community of people just reminding me like, continue doing what you're doing, and it was like I didn't have a profit result, but I came every week and say, oh my gosh, I learned this, or oh, I talked to a seller, and you have like 15, 20 people that are like cheering you on. They're like, oh my God, this is exactly what you do. Keep this up, and so for months, that's all I heard, which was that's the
super positive reinforcement.
And even because even you didn't get that check, you don't have a check in hand. You still have your cheerleaders sort of that are like they keep pushing you. So it took the first year that I was investing in real estate, I made a total of $15,000 of wholesaling. Okay. I didn't touch that, even though I was $150,000 in there. I'm like, oh, I could just pay off something, with that. But I decided to just reinvest in marketing. Okay. And it was because we mapped out our finances, and if I didn't bring that 15K into our personal finances, we were still okay. That's why I decided, okay, that 15K could very well turn into a $200,000 a year by me investing in the marketing, Texinco, whatever whatever you decided. So that was an additional delayed gratification.
That was a very important decision in your career, but it's so scary. And here's the thing too, is marketing is like, there's no guaranteed results. So whenever you're putting money into marketing, it's almost like you're putting it into like the ether, and like it might just vanish into nothing, or it could return 100-fold. Like you don't know what's going to happen with marketing, right?
Yes. So. Now, thankfully, because I had that community in my ear every day almost. This is how we're finding deals in this market. This is the market that you're in. Do this consistently. So that was my a big turning point in me realizing that all this upfront work will
eventually pay off.
Yes.
And the thing is like, it's really important, I think, that you surround yourself with other people who are having success, because the thing is like, if you let's say you heard on TV or you saw people who are far away doing it, it's not real. But then if you're like, hey, like my friend Tay, she did this and this is what her result, is like, it's way more real because I know you actually did this, as opposed to like someone that I don't know personally, right?
Right. And also people that were sharing, the hardships, whether it's losing money or hard relationships, like breaking business relationships. They had to break up with a partner or a contractor, right? So it's like, I'm hearing all these things. I'm not there yet, but they're real people. They are going through the hardships. I remember one day I was sitting in a webinar. It was one of those like just networking webinar, and a friend of ours came on and he's like, I have too many deals, guys. Where am I gonna get, like, I need to raise money and such. And I was a baby in the real estate space at that point, and I just randomly said something on the call like, I wish I had your problem. I wish I had too many deals. And his answer to that was something to do with mindset, because he's big on mindset. And he basically said, 1, you will. 2, when you're in it, you're gonna wish you didn't have these problems. And 3, don't wish for it. Don't wish for these problems. Create opportunities. They'll come with issues, but you have to create your opportunities. And he's one of those like, and like the room was silent. I was like, oh my gosh, he's like straight at me. And you know, being a baby and wanting to be coached, I was just like soaking it in. And it is hard because on social media we see all the wins. And then you get to talk to people in person, almost one-on-one or in private, like small rooms. And they talk about all the not so pretty, the wins.
That's why, I mean, even on this podcast, a lot of times we'll bring people on and we'll share like they're doing some crazy, like cool, amazing win things. And then after the podcast finishes, we're like, dude, so like, what else you got going on? They're like, dude, like my contractor just stole all this money from me. Like, I'm like, dude, we're going to take this huge loss this year. I mean, there's just all these different things behind the scenes that like the overall real estate is an excellent tool, but it's also like, there's also risk and in any business, right? There's the challenges that you're just going to be facing.
Yes. We are definitely risk takers, you know? So,
but it's so this call, I mean, like, I love like that moment in time when you're on the call, you're like a brand new investor, like, and why not, like, I just won my first deal. Like, and this guy's like, dude, I have too many deals. I can't raise money for this, but it's such a contrast. But number one is like, it opens your eyes to see like what's possible and like what, like there's an abundance of deals, right? Because when you first start, I feel like there's no deals anywhere. I tried looking everywhere and I can't find a deal. So if just finding a deal seems so hard, but then once you've been in for a little while, like even for us, sometimes we're like, dude, we got too many deals. Like we don't have the capacity to run all of them. So it's like once you're in the game, you realize that there is actually abundance of deals out there.
Absolutely. Yes.
So you're getting your brand new, you're kind of going through your steps of like earning stripes, doing a lot of learning, a little bit of coaching. How did you actually land your first deal after the wholesale deal?
So when I was first, I kind of got an accountability partner.
Okay.
Our friend also.
Talk to me about that. What's an accountability partner and how does that work?
Awesome. So I honestly didn't know what an accountability partner was until we started it. And basically, so she had a coach who told her, you need an accountability partner that you're going to meet at the very least once a week. You each share the goals for the week. The following week, you need to have checked those goals off. Basically, like, this is my to-do list to get done by next week. And you're not going to tell each other, oh, this is how you're going to plan your day. No. It's just, this is what I'm committing to doing. Next week, it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And we don't sit down for excuses and such. So we don't tolerate excuses. So that's how I gained an accountability partner. And she was kind of not quite starting out, but she was getting into like a becoming a full-time investor.
Okay.
And she just kind of followed the instructions of her coach or her mentor who said, find an accountability partner. And these are the expectations. And so she sort of like mass texted investors on Maui looking for that person. And the timing was perfect. And I said, me. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So anyway, so we started meeting once a week. Then it became 2 or 3 times a week. Then it became like my living room became our office, and we were making cold calls and we were attending webinars and networking Zooms. So I felt so comfortable with her, and I told her, hey, let me market to what you want. Let me kind of handle that. And I paid for all my own marketing and all that. I was making the calls. I was doing the driving for dollars. And let's see what we can do with this. And then she actually got, I did like 2 wholesales to her that very, very first year. And I liked it because there was 0 risk. And before I would kind of lock it up, I'm like, does this number work?
For the audience, can you explain what a wholesale is?
So wholesaling is an investor will put a property under contract.
Okay.
And it's on paper. Like
you have a written signed contract with like the owner.
You are the official buyer. So you have a written contract. And then yourself, you then assign this contract for a fee, and you get an assignment fee to the actual end buyer.
Yeah. Okay.
So
kind of like it's like a partnership, right? Where like you're trying to like be like her acquisitions like person.
It was almost
so
like that.
You're finding like a deal for her, and like you're getting paid a fee to hand it over to her on the back end, right?
Now the benefit that I saw with that, and I think I heard someone call that reverse wholesaling, where you find your buyers, you figure out you ask for their buy box, and you
target their specific
the
buy
market,
box.
yeah.
Okay.
And what it did for me at that point was I could really focus my marketing dollars to something that I almost guaranteed she would buy. So I really like that because I didn't have to mass text, a bunch of buyers. I knew that was really what she was looking for. So it was awesome. So I found 2 deals that very first year. One was writing for dollars. The other was mailers, but then with like a couple touches, then we cold called that list. Yes. So as a follow up. And that's how I made my first $15,000, like between 2 deals in the very first year. And then I reinvested into another mentorship. That was really good with more accountability and then some marketing.
I feel like the accountability piece is like a huge part of the puzzle, for
me, yes.
I mean, I think for us, I mean, and I imagine that time when you guys are just like hanging out together in your living room, it kind of has a feel of like the startup, right? There's that energy where you're like, we're going to like do this thing together. And there's like that kind of like that little mini fire where you guys are both keeping each other like motivated and inspired.
Yes. And the other super cool thing was we were both in 2 different mentorships. So we both came to the table with different sets
like
of
resources
and connections and people and communities. So it really worked out. And she was very active in her mentorship, and she's like, okay, like yesterday on our call, this is what was said. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, is this what we're gonna do? Boom! Like, let's do it. And so it was very very enriching. Like those several months. And I made not necessarily peace, but I didn't want, because I was still learning, I didn't want necessarily a big ticket item or like big profit. I wanted to get really, really, really good, really comfortable, like gain confidence.
The learning and the education and the resources.
Yes. Even though I had mentorships. And the mentorships that I was in was like, here are the videos, here are the tools, and good luck. There was no accountability. Once I gained that accountability, it kind of like was a game changer in my personal career. And the following year, then like that's when I really got traction. Bigger deals came. I bought rentals, and I never thought I would own a rental property ever. I'm like, I'm going to be in debt forever. It's going to take me 10 years to pay this debt off. Like, really. And no, the traction, and it just came back.
Amazing. So like walk us through that. We'll come back to this accountability idea. I love this, by the way. But then like walk us through, how did you get like the big deal, or what was like the big profits you made to help pay off that 150?
Okay, so because I made a little bit of money and I decided to reinvest it, I got a cold caller. So a VA. Cold caller, very affordable hourly pay. And I would pull lists. Like I learned how to pull lists, how to skip trace. And then we didn't have fancy systems. I think we were using any kind of free platform we could hear of, so that we could connect and kind of work as a team, because she was in Jamaica. And her English was really good. So she would cold call and she would cold text. Back then it was doing very well, and there was not too many regulations around those two marketing strategies. So the very first lead that she got, I ended up partnering 50-50 with my accountability partner. She brought in all the money, whether it was private or her own. And she also had the connections with agents and contractors, right? So I didn't have to look for that. And we were able to close fast, which is what the seller wanted. And basically the seller wanted the easy button. And they still made money. And they were like, okay, you're giving us the easy button. We're selling it to you $150K below market value. Okay. And I was like, okay, so there's potential. I walked it and I was like, so I love hotel, and we can go into what a hotel is, but it was basically come in, clean, touch up, list,
make it presentable to
stage
to
and list. Yes. And so it was perfect bones. Like there's no issues, and definitely like we had inspections. We had to fix a few things, like the thing is too high. You gotta pound it down 2 inches. I was like, really? Okay, cool. But yeah, so that deal made, I want to say $70,000. So we each walked away with $35,000.
Okay.
And that was maybe like not even 60-day turnaround. It was, we were in and out of that deal. The other deal that we did, we also did a hotel, and the lead actually came to her through an attorney.
Okay.
This family was in facing foreclosure.
Okay.
We were able to do a short sale.
Okay.
And we hired we call her the short sale queen.
Okay.
She has every contact possible in the nation.
Okay.
So she went directly to like the account manager or the asset manager of that property, and we all negotiated what we needed to do. And yes, so we bought that deal. We were going to buy it and flip it.
Okay.
But the market was insane at that point, and an experienced investor had told us, with the way the market is right now, you could buy it. If you're really going to get it at that price, buy it and list it as is.
Okay.
No, do maybe a survey or something.
Okay.
So what we did was like, the property was fully, like, it was a jungle. So we went and like
clean it out, made
like $10,000 of cleanup. Like, it was a lot. Remove all the junk. I think there were like 6 washers, 5 dryers, a whole car, like parts all over the property. So anyway, we spent a little bit of money, right?
Okay. Cleaned it
and
up.
Then listed it as is. And it was definitely like the agents, the broker, they were all well with that. And it's an as is. Everybody's got to do their own due diligence and such. And that deal made just over 6 figures. And same thing, it was a 90-day turnaround, just over 6 figures. So we each walked away with $50,000.
Amazing.
And that's almost 100,000, almost 85,000 of my debt.
Yeah.
Boom.
The thing is, like, I think real estate it's one of the most easiest for like normal people to kind of get into, and then like the potential for returns, it can be insane. Like if you made 85 grand in, let's say, like 90 days or something along those lines, but then like in reality, like at the time when I was working at W2, I made like 80 grand for the whole year, right? So like the fact that you can do this and like the potential to have like big income earnings, like that's where it's like, to me, it's insane, like the opportunity in real estate investing.
And the thing is, like, the difference, what I tell people who have a W2 with 40 hours a week, and we could make the same or more in one deal. Yeah. I always want to share that one deal, sure, it took 90 days from acquisition to sale, right? To receive our check. But the work that it takes to get to the acquisition, that's months of work, and it's not a clock in and clock out. It's like, you're like brainstorming. It's almost all day, all day long, almost 24/7 that you're brainstorming, and you're trying to think, how am I going to negotiate this? Following up with lenders, with the broker, like it is a lot. I'm not saying
the thing too is like there's so much work involved that doesn't get paid, right? Because like there's so much learning involved that doesn't get paid. So like that and I think like that first year when you just starting as an investor, right? You're like learning, just Zoom calls, like and accountability, like you're putting out marketing, zero results, right? Like you're months and months and months of investing and trying to pour out with nothing in return. Once you get that first deal, okay, you get a little bit of money back in, you get your second deal, you get your third, now like things start to roll. And now you're like, I've got too many deals that I don't know what to do with. But it's like, to get to that point is like a super big grind until you can actually hit that point where the momentum carries you to where the deals are actually coming in, right?
Absolutely. So definitely lots of, sweat and tears up front. And, I remember getting that very first fat check, okay, like the $50K. I had to do the books, and I was like, okay, this is your split, this is my split. And I texted my husband, I'm like, this is what the deal made, and this is what we get to walk away with. And his answer was like, congratulations, I'm proud of you, it is finally paying off. And just like getting that, he saw me. He had to say okay to being even more in debt. He saw me like struggle. He supported me while I was making no money. and he was, working his 60-hour a week job. I think it also felt good for him. And like when he communicated that part to me, it felt good because I kind of forgot. I was so in the hustle. I forgot like what does he see? What does he feel? It's like I put myself in his shoes and I'm like, okay, if he were doing
working
doing
like
all this
24/7 with zero results
with nothing,
for like months,
and I'm working 60, 80 hours a week to provide for the whole family. Wow. And a year and a half of that. I like, that's why I'm like that. The support is amazing, like so important. And any couples watching with a spouse who perhaps doesn't support you as much as you'd like, I pray that you can convey or you can show them the potential. And for any spouse who's watching and who doesn't, truly believe maybe in real estate or believe in their significant other, by you just showing support, it could be a few words, it could be a text, it could be, just a simple conversation, you could really change and turn around the entire trajectory of that journey. Truly, it is it is huge that your significant other support.
That's so good. I mean, even for me and my wife, whenever we have disagreements, I feel like I can't concentrate like at a real estate investment. Right? It's just like there's that mental thing. Whenever you feel like loved and supported at home, like now you can actually focus and like you can put 100% of your energy forward. Whereas like if it's divided or they're trying to like less like very negative, then it's very hard for you to kind of function, right?
Yes, so. And you start questioning. What am I doing? Is this the right thing for my family? Because you go months with nothing, with no results, and you're like, so yeah.
I think that another big thing to be aware of, I think, is the upfront costs and investment before you get traction. Because I think like if you start out investing and you think it's going to be easy or you're going to get a deal very quickly and then you don't get it, it's very discouraging. But if you start in like, hey, it's going to take me a year and a half to get my first deal and I'm willing to put in the work, then like your expectation meets the reality. And so
absolutely,
that's super important for you and your spouse to be on the same page, because if you like your spouse, like it's been like 2 weeks and we don't have anything, like what's going on, right? But like, okay, like there's so much learning and so much like things I need to do to get traction before I can actually see results. If you understand that on the front end, then it kind of sets the expectations and you're able to get through that difficult times because you know it's coming. It's actually an expectation.
Absolutely. Right? And speaking of that upfront cost is, believe me, it's not just a financial upfront cost. It is mental. It is, it's a huge mindset cost, I feel, also upfront, and a lot of energy and emotional, because you get close to deals fall through, or a seller hypes you up and then ghosts you. So you also go through an emotional roller coaster. So it isn't just a price tag out of your bank account or your wallet. It is a lot of things that we don't see. But we feel.
Do you feel, I mean, like one of the cool things I think is as you're going through the junk and you're going through the challenges, you're growing as a person. And I feel like the Tdea of today is like, you would look back at Tdea of like 2019 and 2020 and be like, sis, like I would, if I was in your shoes, I would crush it, because like you're such a better version of yourself than you were back then. Right?
Yes. And so that's the other benefit to investing upfront. In like mentorships or accountability partner and such, you grow. You learn from others. You learn from your own experience. You learn from sharing your own experience, because your struggles and your wins are helping someone out there you didn't even realize. And it also kind of pushes you. It's also fuel personally, So and that's honestly the growth was the one thing I didn't expect to find in real estate. I didn't. I'm a dancer. I can train myself 7 days a week, and you don't have to ask me to train or whatever, or to create anything. But I didn't realize that I was growing also through that
mental growth, right? Like that. I think that having to like work when there's like no reward, or there's these things like these things that the challenges that you're constantly facing challenge and overcoming those challenges. Every time you overcome a challenge, you grow like a tiny bit, right? So you're building like this new person. So like you look back at like that girl Tdea on the Zoom call way back when she's like, I just won my first deal, and you're just trying to get coached up, right? To where you're now. And are you doing some, like, it sounds like we talked earlier, you're actually doing some coaching yourself now?
Yes. So it's, I've been kind of debating about becoming a coach or a mentor, simply because of, time capacity. I didn't want to commit to anything that I couldn't fulfill and kind of be consistent with. So it just accidentally happened, and it's going well. So I'm coaching a couple right now, and I'm learning a lot through being a coach too, where I'm lacking and how I can do better as well.
How did you guys get connected? Did they reach out? How did they started getting coaching from you?
So we met on social media, and they actually became a private lender.
Okay.
And as with probably everyday DMs, how do I get started? Like, help me, we get those all the time. And I always just kind of tell people, read this. Yeah. And in 2 weeks, I want to hear what your questions are, what you learned from it. Yeah. And they were one of the very few that actually did it and followed up. So they did it. And then a couple weeks later, they're like, hey, we're really ready. If you'd be willing, and, they're like, we want to learn from you. If you'd be willing, like, we're committed. So we talked about like what it's going to look like the schedule at first. Yeah. And the cool thing is on our first meeting, I told them we're not going to learn anything real estate. We're going to talk about mindset and expectations. Okay. What are we expecting from each other?
I love that.
And the very first thing I said was, every week that we meet, or every time that we meet, you're going to be given like a list of things to do, kind of almost like homework. Whether it's reading a book, whether it's driving for dollars, whether it's, mass email agents, whatever the case is. And I said, I promise you that the second you do not do what we agreed you would do, I'm not gonna do this. And
I love that. I mean, like, there's so many things. Like, number one is, I love the fact that you you gave them homework in the beginning to test them out. I think there's a lot of people who, newer investors, or want to get started, like, hey Daniel, how do I get started investing? And I'll have like lunch with these guys, or a call or coffee, and I was like, hey, here's the first step: read this book and get back to me. And like 99% of people, like, I never hear of them ever again. They're like, I'm so excited, I'm gonna read this book. Ghost, like, them, you hear from them again. But there's like
so much, I get back to you.
There's a few people. So actually, one of like our director, like right now, like our acquisitions guy, CEO Josh, amazing dude. He was one of the first few where I was like, hey dude, like, he's like, how do you get started investing? Read this book and get back to me. Boom. The next week he read it. What next? Read this book, get back to me. Boom. Read the book. Next. What next? And so like, you saw the hunger and the drive of, if somebody is willing to put in the work and to get back to you and actually do what's needed, guaranteed they will have success in the long run, right?
Absolutely. And as someone, whether you're a coach or mentor, one of the most draining things is wanting something for them that they claim they want. Yeah. And being the only one pulling. Yeah. That is very draining. And it, not even in a negative way, but it's like.
No, it is negative.
Yeah, it is. It is. One where, we kind of put a bit of our heart into it as well. Like, it's like, I know, like, this is what it did for me. I wish that for you. That bottom line. But you have to want it for yourself. Others are not going to want it for you. So you have to want it for yourself. And being the pulling person is draining energy-wise, time-wise, if you're investing time. So it can't, that was set up front.
There's always an exchange of value in any relationship, like whether you realize or not, there's always like something you're always getting, you're always giving something. Yeah. And in a coaching relationship, sometimes like there's a monetary exchange where like somebody's giving you money to be coached, but there's also like an emotional paycheck as a coach. And so like, if you're investing all this value and this time and your heart into somebody and they're not taking like action and doing the things, it's like an emotional drain from you. But if they're actually doing what you're saying, you're seeing progress in their life, you're like, now it's a win for you. When you see them win, it's like an emotional paycheck for yourself. So like, if people are like getting coached by you, but they're not actually taking the steps, like it's a huge like negative like value like exchange at that point in time.
Absolutely. Yes. And this is like one-on-one. So I'm not talking about we created a course, you buy it and then you're on your own. Like this is, we meet in person. So it's been very enriching for me as well to see people take action, and I'm a part of it. So I really like that, and we'll see where this goes. We're only a couple months in, and so far they, every time, like, okay, so every day you're gonna do this, and then I kind of check in, or they just send me like, okay, we did this. Love it.
One of the things I do also like about coaching is that whenever you coach somebody, you get better at the craft too. Like, so we had some interns and some like people who are like, we're trying to teach and coach. And I find whenever like we bring out the whiteboard and I'm like, hey, here's how you do this or this, they ask questions like, actually, you find as you're explaining it, you're realizing or understanding more yourself, right? And I love that aspect. And I think a lot of like the really successful guys, like you look at like a Ryan Pineda or Pace Morby, they coach and they teach so much that through that coaching, they actually become like the best version of themselves, and then their business grows because of their coaching. So like just by the act of teaching other people, like they get so much better. Like so.
And we always hear people say, if you want to know how much you know about anything, teach it to a 2-year-old. Like make a 2-year-old understand, and that's when you're like, whoa, okay, like and it's some things that when they bring up questions and are like, I don't even know how to explain this. I understand, but I don't know how to explain. You can't put it on paper. You can't show someone else how to do it. That means you don't fully understand that concept. So then you can get clarity for yourself.
And sometimes you don't even know the answer. You're like, actually, that's a good question. I don't even know. Let me go and research
Talk
it.
to someone.
Now you got to figure it out, and then I'll be able to explain it. And every time I go to these conferences, one of the best ways that I absorb the most out of these conferences is I plan to go back and teach my team something. So I'm like, hey, when I'm going to these conferences, I'm like, hey, like, what can I take away from here where I can actually like teach a team member or a team? And so like when you're taking notes, it's a different type of note taking you're taking when you know that you have to go back and teach somebody else versus like you're just going for yourself, So
I never thought of that.
Small little tip. So I mean, just whenever you go to a conference or a meetup, just like I'm gonna go back and teach somebody something, whatever I learned. And so like because it could be your husband, it could be like your another partner, a team member, whatever, like somebody you're coaching, a student, but like just always intend to be teaching this on the back end. And even if you don't teach it, when you're taking those notes and you're like absorbing the material, it's like you're coming in from like, I really need to understand this so I can tell somebody else,
Yeah, I love that, because when I'm at these, mini masterminds and such, I take notes as like reminder. It's more like a reminder, so I can kind of read through it and I'm like, that popped, that's a nugget that I don't want to forget.
Yeah.
But am I going to be able to explain it to someone else? That's super cool. Good note. Yeah.
So I mean, like the real estate has a lot of, there's like big wins and sometimes there's losses as well too. Like, have you ever experienced any like losses in your career?
Yes. Yes. I think it was, I know Alex Hormozy a couple of months ago, he put out this video about like the emotional roller coaster of entrepreneurship. Like you're super motivated,
you're optimistic, and you're let's conquer the world.
You're going,
right? So,
and then first challenge, and you're like, ugh. Like you kind of come down, but you're like, no. Like you're still motivated, and then you get hit hard enough to where you're like questioning your whole life, and then you have like you just grow from that, and then you're like, I'm gonna get back up, and then what do I need to do? What did I learn from this? How am I gonna?
But there's two options, right? So like you're I'm excited. Let's do this thing. You have first challenge. Okay, overcome it. We're still going. Boom, you get hit really hard. You're at the bottom. You're questioning your life. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna quit. That's one option, right? Like just screw it, I quit. The other one's like, okay, let's figure it out. Let's pick myself back up and get over it. If you can choose this one, it's a way different outcome than the one like, let's just quit, right?
Absolutely, right? They all say we fail once we quit. So the real estate, when I started in real estate, it was COVID. Now the market was not a regular market. So it was almost easy.
Yeah.
I was finding deals
right after COVID, right? It's like the
yes.
COVID created like a
2021,
tank, and they started coming back up like like
and everybody was offering way over asking. Remember that? So what those first two deals where I made like $85,000.
Could not lose, right?
Yeah, it was like, and I was like, hey, there's nothing to do. Even if we just make $10,000, like, let's go, like, so we were taking bigger risks. And then early 2022, I was like, yeah, let's take the risks, So anyway, so it was an acquisition in 2022. The renovation took a lot longer. A lot of expectations were not met on all parties. Like, I'm definitely, like, myself as well. I'm not pointing a finger at any single person. So we were in the deal over 1 year.
Okay.
Because by the time we listed it, it was bad market, bad everything when we listed it. And it was then it was a buyer's market by the time we were done with the renovations. So it was no longer a seller's market, which is what I had experienced, right? Prior. That's the only experience I had.
And these things are like, it can be a big swing, right? Because let's say like you're trying to sell a house for like $1 million in the back end, right? Like on a buyer's market, it's like, okay, it's an upswing. We'll sell it for 1.2 because like everything is going up. But on a downswing, it's okay, actually it's only going to sell for, let's say, 800. That's a $400,000 difference in a great market and a down market. So not neutral, but like up market to negative market. So like, let's say you buy it for 600. You're like, okay, like we're going to make like a bunch of money, put in like 300 into it, right? So we'll make like 200 if we sell it, or 100 if we make it for $1 million. But with a great market, we'll make 300. Boom, you're winning. But a down market, okay, we're going to sell for 800. We're going to lose $100,000. So like that swing between a great market and a down market is huge as a fix and flipper.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So it was very, very hard.
Yeah.
I went down.
Mm-hmm.
I went really low in everything. It was very tough for several months. And I didn't know where to turn to, right? And I was questioning everything. Felt like the biggest failure. And I just kind of hung on to the few people who I knew had experienced big losses. And I would sit in webinars with them, or I would meet them, and they would talk about their big losses. And you'll be like, it hurts really, really bad right now. But I promise you that if you don't stop, it'll get better. So I just hung on to that. And it was like this, the most quiet of the voices that I had of all the things that were in my mind. So we lost, it was either $115,000 or $130,000 on this one deal. And by the time we were, ready to let it go, I had to work on coming to terms with the big loss. And someone, I talked about the deals with other investors, and they're like, rip the Band-Aid. Rip the Band-Aid. So I was talking to other investors, and they were just saying, rip the Band-Aid. Like, this is emotionally draining for you, and money, you're going to lose more and more and more. Anyway, so I was like, okay, like I had to come to terms with, and it took days of like building the mental to lose big.
The mental strain of like money is real. I think whether like it's like there's like a physical like feeling of you when you're in debt, right? So or you're gonna take a big loss, and so like even before you start investing in real estate, there's like the $150,000 that you have in debt, like that weight is a very real thing, and so like it weighs on your mind. So when you actually you're able to get out of it, or when you have these wings of or these feelings of freedom, it's like this weight's lifted off your chest, right? And so when you take a big loss, especially even in real estate, right, like it's this weight of like not just like the monetary loss, but then also like your reputation, like your friendships, these different things.
My lenders,
like people who like lose confidence in you. There's all these different things in addition to just a monetary weight. So like there's a monetary weight, then there's an emotional and like relational weight that's also like burning on top of that, right? And so it's so huge to be able to deal with this. And I think a lot of times like people will just crumble under the pressure. Like it's just like they can't handle it. And so like you look at the guys on Wall Street, or like they lose money, and so what they do is like they'll just commit suicide, right? It's like the weight is so strong they can't handle it, right? So like, but it's a very real thing that we have to deal with. I think as an investor, is like, but you have to be strong enough to be able to handle some of these things. And I think you experienced one where it's like a very big loss, and you've come out on the back end where you were able to like have like the strength to be able to weather that storm. It was some friendships, some people talked into your life at that point in time. How did you were you able to just like take that on and just kind of move forward into like I'll get out of that?
Real answer?
Yes.
Okay. So it was a mix of a couple of things. One, I was working on a deal that had a lot of potential.
Another one.
Yes.
Okay.
Another one. I wasn't going to make that mistake again. So I reviewed the deal 50 times before we signed the contract. I brought agents, investors, like other investors that were willing to like lend their time. And I had to know that I was not going to lose money. Okay. And everyone said there really is good potential. Obviously, buy it as low as you can. Yeah. But you do like already where you're at right now. If you really are going to acquire at that amount, you know, there's good potential there. So I was like, okay, I cannot go through a loss. Okay, like not back to back. Yeah. So there was that. Like I was working on a deal. I had to grow. So in my personality, communication is not something that I lack, but I'm very non-confrontational, and it is very hard for me to have hard conversations. I just don't know, and I just imagine the worst instead of, you know, have the conversation and deal with the ramifications of it. So I had to have a hard conversation with my private lender, and you know, thankfully, every couple of months I was updating him, and so for a while we knew like, hey, we're trying to get under contract. We're going to lose money. I'm going to have to extend the loan with you and figure out. But I did tell him like, I am working on the lead. I don't want to tell you that I'm going to pay you off in a week or in a year. Like I don't want to promise something that I don't know when I'm going to deliver it. Thankfully, he was like, okay, I'm still going to earn my money. And I'm like, yep, absolutely. Where you're getting paid your interest. So anyway, so it made me feel good already having that conversation. And the last thing is, I turned to God. God appeared in my life that year, and I just kept hearing things, and then things were happening in my life, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I didn't do this. Having hard conversations, that was like one of the main things. I never, ever, ever did that before. Never. I will hold my breath for 10 minutes before I have to have a hard conversation. I will go in debt before I will have a hard conversation with anyone. And I just kept hearing like these messages. You need to have these hard conversations. So so I truly feel like that, these me growing in that way is, I feel, a godly or a divine intervention, because I will do anything to avoid those situations. So, and then I felt like I needed to learn more about God. And then the more I was learning about God, the more I was realizing, like, my mind shifted, not necessarily priorities, but
perspective.
The perspective and the attachment, the attachment to money. I was reading, I would literally go into like little lessons about money and wealth. And I'm like, I want to understand this. How do we view this? So anyway, I just went into it, and it worked out for me.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
That's so good. That's so good. I think you like, look at the Tdea today, like you got some battle scars, right? Like you had some to go through some junk, but it's also like that junk that also makes you like who you are today. And so you're a way better person, a way stronger person today than you were back then, right? So it's always Absolutely. Like, if you had to have like a difficult conversation today, you're like, okay, you can rely on like, I've had this before, I've done this before. You're probably gonna have more difficult ones in the future, which is gonna cause you to grow even more. But then it's because like you can rely on these ones that you had now in the past. And so, but it's always stepping stones for like your next achievement or your next step in life, So like you gotta solve the $150,000 problems before you can solve the $1.5 million problems, right? So like, if you guys dumped into like the 1.5, you'd be like, I can handle this because it's too much for me. But okay, I got tossed into the 150. I was like, it sucked. I was able to overcome this. Now let's move on. Let's continue to grind. Let's continue to grow as a person, but also as a business owner. And then now it's preparing you for the next season of your life when there's going to be like different challenges and more challenges, but like you're way more equipped and you're stronger now than you were like then back then, right? So,
and I feel like I must have been rewarded because after dealing with the sort of like dealing with the loss. No, after selling and like looking in the books, I'm like, wow, that's the loss that we had. Shortly after, I had another really good wholesale, another one of, minimal work, minimal monetary investment, huge.
What did you guys make on that one?
103, I think.
Or how long, how many months of work?
Work 9 months.
Okay.
Deal 90 days.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah. So I was rewarded for growing, I think, and trust, just growing in my faith. And I just want to say, like, the furthest thing from having been raised as a believer, I'm not at all. I don't know. Maybe prior I've gone to church not even 10 times in my life. Yeah, it was very completely unexpected. And I think like at that point, we always hear he comes into your life when there's no other option. Like I didn't have 130,000 nowhere at that point. So that's when he showed up and there was nothing else. Like I couldn't go to anyone. I couldn't go to a deal. Like, so that's when he comes in and he's like, all right, I'm here and I'm needed. You need me and we'll get through this together. So
amazing. That's so good.
That deal, the biggest loss that I had, that morning I had to go to I think I was meeting with a mobile notary because it was an out-of-state deal. Meeting with the mobile notary and signing, and it was like signing the loss, like your biggest loss, and it's hard. And right after, that was a Friday. Every Friday, ever since March 2020, I would say 98% consistently, I do attend this kind of like Hawaii and out-of-state investors online Zoom meetup.
Okay.
And I've really grown to kind of like that community, and there are friends. So, and I've never, even before I met these guys in person, we considered ourselves friends just because we were very consistent. Every Friday we would be on the Zoom with like 20, 30 people sharing all things real estate. And so because I'm a regular, I always get called. Like when I come on, like, Tdea's on a call, and so if I have something to say, like I'll share. And so, I'm like, oh yeah, I actually just came from a signing. They're like, wow, tell us about it. I was like, okay, well, and I felt comfortable. Like these guys were like, I don't know, 3-something years of networking weekly together. Yeah. So I felt comfortable. And there are even people that I've called when I needed help or understanding something. They were there. So even though we were in front of, we were in a room, a networking call, I just felt comfortable enough to talk about it. And I was like, well, actually, I lost money. They're like, oh, okay. Well, they call me on it. Well, how much did you lose? I'm like, okay.
One thing I like about investors is like, we're not scared to talk about money. Like, like you talk to like so in your W-2 job, you're like, how much do you make in your salary? Like, people don't want to share. Or they don't like talking about like wins and losses. Yes. But the investor community is kind of unique where we make money, we lose money, we talk about it, we share, we learn from each other. Right.
So I had, and again, I do not quite recall. I probably told them like, oh, it's over 6 figures. Yeah. And they were like, ooh, the first reaction is like, ooh, that hurts. But I was sitting in a room of people who have lost more.
Yeah.
Right. In their career, because they've been investing for, 10, 15 years. There's a big difference when you talk to someone who's never lost money and you talk to people who lost millions maybe in their life. Right. The conversation is different and the energy is different. their comeback was, T, congratulations. I was like, I didn't expect that. Of course, I know that part of the business is losing money. I get it. It's just the amount and the amount of work that I put in. And, when you have a family, when you're a parent, you're like, I just took that much away from my family. Like, it's not
the perspective.
You. It is, your family unit. My husband trusted me with this and I failed, right? So it was hard. But after I said that, I was getting all the Zoom private messages. Thank you for sharing, us too. Thank you for sharing. We just went through it. I was like, what? So I didn't know that even though I was sitting in a room with like 20 people, like a handful of them were like sharing, and they're like, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that. So we, we're in a networking Zoom call. And of course, they're like, what did you learn? What are you not going to do again? And, I gave my answers, and it was, I'll do better. Something with, it was a partnership. And I'm not saying that the partnership wasn't good.
Yeah.
But I feel like I failed the partnership as well. And I also told them that my ego was hit, but not in a sense where I'm too I'm not a prideful person.
Yeah.
But I definitely walked around with confidence. It's not pride. It was just confidence. Like, I have this track record.
Yeah,
and it's a good track record.
You've had success, right? So like, you've earned that confidence.
Yeah, and
right?
like when I analyze it, I'm like, I analyzed it with the worst case scenario, and we were still making money. Like we weren't, what happened was the market really turned. Okay. That, and like I should have managed the project better. Like there are definitely things I could have done better, which I for sure am doing better now.
Yeah.
But, so I didn't expect it. Like that if I lost money, I didn't expect that would be the deal, because it just was like, oh, that's a for sure deal,
Yeah.
So a bit of like, maybe not ego, my confidence kind of got hit
shaken,
there.
Yeah.
So shaken, so, and they definitely gave me feedback, I like the whole group was like, hey, this is part of it. And
that's, again, I mean, I love that. It's so healthy to be in a group of people who get you understand and can kind of put you, like, pick you up and put you back in the right direction. And then like you said, like there's guys who've lost like millions probably in that group, and so
they're like oh yeah,
like don't stop complaining. Like like it's not a big deal. Like you'll get over it. But it also helps to frame your perspective of life and the issue, right? So like you're like, these guys who are very successful, way more successful than me, they have done the exact same thing and even worse. So then it puts it into your mind, like, hey, I can still recover from this and I can still succeed. It's not the end of the world for me because of you're borrowing their confidence, right?
Yes. And again, that is the best part about sitting in a room of just like people that are way ahead of you. Just like when I was a baby and I got this, like, I got called out on my mindset, right? That made me think, I'm like, okay, I need to not think small or whatever. Then I talk about a big loss around a room with about a handful of people who lost way more. And the energy that I talk about is like, for them, it's like, oh, that's nothing, that'll happen again. And when you talk to people who do not encourage your loss and all these feelings, they're like, oh my gosh.
Make it worse.
Yes.
There's like it's like kids, right? So like when there's a kid, like they're running, they fall down, they fall down, and they're like, you're okay, yeah, good job. They're like, they get up, they're like,
okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's okay. But it's like, are you okay? Oh my God. And they're like, they start crying, right? So it's like the way that you like approach like the pain is like so it affects the way other people approach your pain affects how you respond and how you like you make your next move or your next decision, right?
Can I go into a story?
Please.
So, because this just happened, one of my bigger lenders, he wants to lend, but he also wants to kind of like get his own, wealth growing. So he started buying rentals, And so he has a rental property out of state. So he lives here in Hawaii. He has a rental property out of state. And every now and then he'll text me like, hey, is this normal with my PM, my property manager? And, so we give feedback. So in his eyes, I have more experience. Maybe not. I kind of don't tend to compare because I have so many, whatever, so many ideas, so many units, it's like, whatever. It is what it is. Like your journey is different from mine, and I don't need to compare. But sure, I've dealt with more property managers, so he's asking questions over, last few months. He's owned it for almost a year now. But 2 days ago, out of nowhere, he's like, I think I really need to talk to you. I messed up really bad. I'm not sleeping. For the last 2 weeks, I'm not well and I'm super scared and a huge mistake. So I remember these feelings. Like when I was down, like I remember and I was like, he's a nice person. I'm like, I do not wish that. Absolutely not on you. Like, let's get on a call. So we talk. So I laugh, but it's not funny because we know when we're in there, like it ain't funny when we feel like we're losing. Okay. So, but his situation was different. He didn't sell. So he's not realized a loss, but it's just, somehow he knows that his property is not valued at all the money that he put in. Right. Okay. So I don't know, let's say his property is valued at 200, but he's all in 300, purchase 300. Okay. So I'm not too sure. We didn't get into those numbers, but I asked, so we're talking through this, and he's like, I made a huge mistake. Like I'm losing 50,000. And I'm like, okay, well, are you selling the property? He's like, no, but I want to because it's not a good investment because it's not in a good neighborhood. And I'm like, okay, do you have a tenant right now? Yes. Is the rent covering the mortgage? Yes. What's your cash flow? About $500. What's your all-in? About 50,000. I'm like, I mean, that's a pretty good ROI.
Yeah.
And then like there's a 10% ROI monthly. That's not bad actually,
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, if you're going to keep this property for the next 30 years, you're paying on principal. It's, you just made an investment for cash flow. Like, and he's like, yeah, but what about vacancies and such? And I'm like, okay, do not touch that 500. Leave the 500 every month that you make, leave it in that account. I was like, okay, so this is in the Midwest. Do you know how much a new roof costs in the Midwest? Maybe $5,000. He's like, oh, because he's thinking Hawaii numbers, and it's like a $20,000 new roof. And I'm like, you'll be honestly, I'm like, I wish I had your problem. I wish I was cash flowing 500 on a depreciating asset. You have a W-2, you're gonna get the depreciation. And so when he told me, like, obviously at first he was like, I just lost 50K. It was just a value thing, right? As is and appraised.
That's the beauty of real estate, where it's like if you buy it for the long term, and then like there's gonna be fluctuations up and down like the years, but if you hold it for 30 years, it's guaranteed a huge win, especially if you're positive cash flow. Because if you're bleeding every month, that's a slightly different story. But like if you're positive, then like it's a guaranteed long term winner, right? So
right. When he told me I'm losing 50,000, I'm still coming from my over $100,000 loss.
It's all perspective,
and
right?
And I didn't laugh absolutely, but in my mind I was like, oh, I lost like way more than double, but. Anyway,
his problem seems so small to you, right? And like,
so
they're like, he's like stressed. Like, oh, I can't believe this. I lost 50, but you're like, dude, like I just lost 150. I recovered. I'm okay. But like, it's such a like you see like you're this far ahead of him as far as mindset just goes because you've experienced this. But it took that loss and overcoming that loss to grab the one mindset that you have now.
Yes, so. And the good thing, the feedback was, I'm so glad I talked to you.
Yeah.
Because if he talked to someone who's never lost money, maybe they would have been like,
oh my gosh, 50. Yeah, that's like my whole year's paycheck. Right. How can you lose that? Like, what were you thinking? Like, it's
yeah. So I'm like, I'm like, are you listening? Like, you're a numbers dude. You are okay. Like, you didn't. So completely flipped the cup for him. Like,
I love that.
He was like, thank you so much. I really, and he's like, I think I'll still need to process, but this was already huge. And same thing. Like I remember talking to the people who lost more.
Yeah.
When they come back, they're like, "Congratulations!" You're like,
it's almost like a badge of honor at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's
so
crazy.
it's like you're earning your stripes. So anyway, so that's the energy that I'm talking about. Like when you sit in the right room, the energy is different. So yeah, that's why I wanted to share. And maybe like my loss is gonna be the gain that I'm getting from that loss is like being able to like just reshape other people's mindsets.
And I think some people who are losing,
that.
like they're gonna lose like $5,000, $10,000 on their journey in the beginning. They're gonna be like, well, Tay lost $150,000. She's still trucking along. She's still like crushing it.
Yeah.
I could like, it puts their loss into perspective, and not to like denigrate or like to belittle what they've done, but at the same time, just when you put things into perspective, it just helps you to overcome and see things a little bit clearer. So.
Yeah, and someone's loss is going to help you as a newer investor or a starting investor. Hearing what other people are losing, it's almost like, okay, well, I lost like $2,000 on this deal. Like you're like, okay, it's fine. That's cost of business.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you. I feel like you would have done this, like where you're like you paid for an appraisal, you paid for all these upfront costs, and then the deal didn't go through. That's total loss, right?
That's normal, right?
Yeah, and that's cost of business. It's just big dollars sometimes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Tay, it's been so good just hearing your story. I mean, just like seeing like what you've accomplished to overcome some of the challenges you've overcome, and so just super proud of you, just as a mom, as a wife, as an investor, just as a person, as a human. So
thank you.
If people want to reach out and find you, where can they do so?
I feel like social media is the easiest. Tereva Invests.
Okay.
And it's still me in the DMs.
Okay.
I'm not a big operation, so. People can reach out to me on social media.
Awesome.
Instagram.
Well, thanks for jumping on the show, and we'll gotta talk again.
Yes. Thank you.